Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to National Matters, 21st of February 2022. I am your host and your pastor, Pastor Moses Chiluba. In the studio, I'm honored to have our guest tonight, Vice President or Acting President of the PF, Mr. Given LUBINDA. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much indeed, Pastor. Thank you for having me on your program.
I'm grateful. May I request your mask to be off? This is a COVID-free zone, and you don't expect the virus in here.
It's nice to hear, Pastor, and also to assure you that I am double vaccinated, and I suppose that for the time being, I'm also COVID-free.
You may want to know this, Honorable. I trust the Word of God so much that it has actually come to be true in this COVID that we are in. Some people have come to trust in COVID, masks, in vaccines, more than in their God. And trust me, we have lost some of the people that we have vaccinated, and they died from COVID, amazing enough. And there are numerous testimonies that even some of the clips here and in America of the people who die, you tend to believe that why do we put our faith in the vaccine and not in the God of the vaccine? So to trust Jehovah, it's good. And as people are taking the vaccines, it's better to say I'm vaccinated, but the keeper of my life is Jehovah.
You're very right. I don't think that a vaccine should be a substitute for faith. No, it shouldn't. But also, faith alone without action is dead.
Absolutely.
So it is a combination. Like you have said, there are some people who have been vaccinated who unfortunately passed on. But there is also evidence of the fact that some people are vaccinated, at least when they are hit by COVID. It's not as drastic as it is for those who are not vaccinated. But the best, obviously, is like we do with any kind of medicine. You go to take medicine, but you also put faith into it. You can take as many drugs as you want, but if you don't have the faith, you don't have belief that the medicine will work because God is watching over you, it will not work.
Well,
so it is a combination.
In this studio and this church, Mr. President, you are welcome. It's a COVID-free zone.
Thank you very much.
And we have trusted God that God is a keeper and He will keep our lives.
Right. Nice to know.
I am so privileged to have you on this show, and I must speak to my viewers out there that Camnet TV is not just another channel. I know, Honorable President, that people expect you to give me the questions. Pastor, ask me on that, ask me on this, so I send the question to you. But I like asking from my heart, so that what I cannot ask, then I leave it to the audience. That said, those of you that are my guests, also through this TV, when you begin to ask the questions, Mr. Director, please put the phone lines there so that I can have the text messages already flowing so that we don't delay. When you begin to ask your questions, I don't expect you to demean my guest. I don't expect you to ask questions which are not towards the development of this nation. And it's obvious that you cannot be personal. My director and Camnet TV viewers, we are very sharp out there. Once you start using demeaning language, you'll be shut off. And I want us to be very clear that we are here to develop Zambia. Mr. President, acting president. Let me ask this question because I don't know how your party hierarchy is. How did you assume this position as vice president or acting president? Were you just appointed by President Edgar Chagwalungu, or the committee appointed you? I don't know.
Thank you very much. This is a question that I've been asked on numerous occasions.
Oh, okay.
And it's a question that is a little challenging to answer, because some people, when they ask the question, they generally do not understand how the positions in the Patriotic Front are allocated. The constitution of the Patriotic Front provides that at every convention there shall be an election for the president and 54 members of the Central Committee. And the president is empowered by the constitution to allocate positions to the 54 members of the Central Committee.
Oh, I see.
So members of the Central Committee in the Patriotic Front are not elected to portfolio positions. They are all elected in one basket as members of the Central Committee. So in this particular case, you may recall that at the last convention that we held, soon after the election of President Edgar Lungu as president of the Patriotic Front, and then the 54 members of the Central Committee were elected, President Lungu nominated or appointed Mwanga Mukupa as national chairman and appointed Davis Muila as secretary general. And he said he would appoint the others after the elections of August. And soon after handing over power to His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema, we were actually gathered, a few of us at State House, and he then announced to us that the fact that he had now handed over power to President Hakainde, his successor, he was also now going to take a back seat in the Patriotic Front. And he thought he could not take the back seat before he appoints the vice president. And seated, all of us gathered in there, there were about 6 of us. He announced that he had chosen to appoint me as his vice president, with a view, obviously, of acting as president because he was to take a back seat. So that's how I assumed the position of vice president, and that's how now I am acting president of the Patriotic Front.
I'm so grateful. I've never heard you, and I've never heard about this development. But it's good because Camnet viewers also, we are a big family in this nation. Others may not have known that. That said, I want to ask, do you think the PF is moving as one, or after the defeat by UPND there are cracks in the PF?
You know, after any defeat, even if it's just in a game of soccer, after a defeat, there will always be misgivings amongst people. And especially in politics, after you've lost power, after you've lost government, obviously there will be some people who will be totally disenchanted. People who just resign to the fact that we can't make it, we've lost, I'm going, I'm packing my bags and going. And it happened to us. Edify Hamugale, for instance, who before then was Minister for Southern Province, soon after the results were announced, the very same day, he said, no, I'm quitting politics, I'm going into back to my career. He left. There are also others, obviously, who decided to take a back seat. There are those who feel, oh, I don't have the energy to push a political party in the opposition. They have taken a back seat. There are also others who do not relish being in the opposition because it's very difficult to be in the opposition. They have crossed, they have gone to the ruling party because they find it rosy. There are some people who like it easy all the time. There are people like that. So if I say that there has not been any cracks in the party, I would be missing the point. The truth of the matter is that yes, there are some people who have left the party, and as we are now, there are also some people who have misgivings on how the party has been moving ever since the elections because of the different combinations. There are some people who are members of the Patriotic Front and were loyal, totally loyal to President Michael Sata. When Michael Sata died, they left. There are also others who are totally loyal to President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Now that he's taken the back seat, they also feel that they're not protected and they may not like my style of leadership. And certainly they would be grumbling and so on and so forth. But the good thing is that the vast majority of the members of the Patriotic Front are extremely eager and they are pushing for us to make progress. On a daily basis, I get messages from all and sundry, from the width and breadth of the country, of members urging us on and saying, please, let's not give up, let's go on, because we have faith in this organization called the Patriotic Front. Members of the Central Committee are holding together. Even under very difficult circumstances, we're holding together. Members of Parliament are equally holding together. I've so far had more than 6 meetings with members of Parliament where we sit and share ideas on the program of work they have in Parliament. And they are very cohesive in the way they are approaching parliamentary business. So I can confirm to the viewers that we are comfortable with where we are, and we are determined to make ourselves even stronger. All I can say is that, yes, there is a lot of hope in the future for the Patriotic Front.
In every grouping of 12 disciples, there is a Judas. In every grouping of 12 disciples of our Lord Jesus Christ, there is a Judas. President Chagwa Lungu was a blessing to many PF people, to the nation, and to the PF members. But of the 12, there are those also who they were enjoying the leadership, they were enjoying the privileges of being PF, and now that President Lungu is out of power, there are those that it happened to President Kaunda, it happened to President Chiluba, it happened to all the presidents when they leave. There are those that now are demeaning or insulting or fabricating stories, whether true or not, to escape the hook probably, or the fear that UPND may catch up with them. Do you have such people?
Not any that I can point to, because I've not heard what those who have left are saying about the Patriotic Front. And
about the president? Even
about the president, I've not heard any person who has castigated President Edgar Chagwa Lungu or blamed them in public. They may do it privately. But to be honest, I can't remember any former member of the Patriotic Front, particularly amongst members of the Central Committee or members of the Cabinet, who have gone out and castigated President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. I'm yet to hear, but I cannot doubt that there could be people like that, and maybe up to now they may be saying things in the quiet of darkness, where we're not hearing them, where we're not seeing them, because it's just the nature of man. There are some people who are just born Iscariots. Once things don't work well for them, they turn around and stab their former colleagues in the back. But I'm trying to think now if I can recall any person who I've heard having left the PF castigating.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. Being a pastor and being privileged with this media, you hear a lot of things, and I am simply putting it to you that I think those of you that are there, united, you are a blessing also to the former president, because he's a soul.
Precisely.
Besides being a president, he's a soul.
Precisely.
And as you know me, President, me and you have come a long way.
Long way. Indeed.
And even from UNIP time, when President Kaunda left State House, he was treated like a person with leprosy. And I remember I've told this story that the first birthday out of State House, my wife and I accompanied the family. She sang a song, I preached with Mama Betty Kaunda and the family there. People were so scared to visit Dr. Kaunda, and a lot of things were said, you know, the first year when he came out of State House. And the same with President Lungu. In fact, I've made 2 attempts to just go and pray for him and meet him. Me, as a pastor, have no agenda except the agenda of God. But you have people, like you are saying, who are sellouts. All I can say to you that are there, hold on. These are earthly things. At the end of the day, President Lungu, Mama Esther Lungu, needs someone who can speak the word of God and to lift their spirits.
Precisely. Please do go and pay them a visit. They obviously need people who can go and speak to them and give them comfort. No doubt that the period that any president or former president of Zambia goes through the first 1 year is not easy. I was on this same television with one of your colleagues, one of the interviewers, when I said that the habit of Zambians to persecute former presidents is very, very bad and must come to a stop. You know, seen from what has happened in the past, one can be sure that President Hakainde Hichilema will also go through it. You know, he is certainly bound to go through this. All his predecessors, except those who died in office, except Michael Sata, who died in office, and Levi Mwanawasa, who died in office. The others who left office because of an election, what happened? They were stripped of immunity, they were humiliated, they were embarrassed. As for His Excellency President Chiluba, can you imagine, just a few months before his demise, he was acquitted. Meaning that for the whole of his life after leaving State House, he was walking the streets of Zambia
as a condemned man, criminal.
You know, look at RB. He too, after leaving State House, his immunity was removed. Only to come and find that there is no reason for having removed his immunity. And then we start asking questions, can we give him back the immunity? And the answer was, no, there's nothing like that. Once you remove the immunity, that's it.
Is that how it works?
Yes. Once you've broken the egg, that's it. You can't rebuild it.
So are you saying President Rupia Banda doesn't have immunity on him?
The immunity was already removed. And nobody can go back to him and say, now we're clothing you back with your presidential immunity. No. He was already investigated. And that immunity that is clothed with on presidents is to avoid that they are liable criminally. But once you subject a person to criminal investigations, what is the use of bringing back the immunity? You've already undressed them.
After he has been proved innocent.
You've already undressed them. You know, you've already undressed them. So the poor old man was subjected to criminal investigations by us, the people he governed. And at the end of it, what did we benefit from it? Nothing. You know, nothing. So my appeal is that, yes, it is important for people to have the law to remove the immunity of a president, but at least that must be done where there is merit. As things are, you know, over Rupia Banda, if you remember, I was in Parliament then and I debated that issue. I actually said the idea now that from Chiluba, the immunity of Chiluba was removed after the president, the sitting president, went to Parliament and said he had established a prima facie case against his predecessor. It was the head of state, and he actually called a special sitting of Parliament. It was that serious. It was handled at the highest level in the country.
By President Levi Mwanawasa.
By President Levi Mwanawasa. Whereas for President Rupia Banda, it was the Minister of Justice. And my debate in Parliament was, I'm very happy as a fighter against corruption, you are lowering the standard. Be careful, because now, even for you, this will come. Now that
a member of Parliament can just come up and...
I said, now that you're lowering the standard, all of you are now going to be subject to this treatment. That was my debate, because I didn't subscribe to the idea that a president's immunity should be removed only by a motion moved by a minister. No, that was lowering the dignity of the president. So even at that point, I did not agree with it. Even now, my position is, yes, you may remove the immunity of a president, but please, it must be after you have conducted your thorough investigation and you see that there is a case. You know, you don't just go and remove his immunity and afterwards you say, oh, sorry, after all, he's innocent. Because you are undressing the presidency and you are creating a precedence that is very difficult to stop. Because a person loses government because the majority of voters have said no to that person. And if the majority of people have said no to that person and you go and ask them, should we punish him? You're asking the people who said, we don't like this person. And then you're asking them, should we punish him? The most likely answer would be, yes, punish him. That's why we don't like him. But for what reason are we punishing him? They may not even have a reason for punishing him, just because he lost elections. And for some, they'll be saying this because they want to endear themselves to the current system. We love you very much, Pastor. We love you very much. And because we love you, we're giving you the power to punish your predecessor. But is that the way society must be developed? No.
You know, President Lubinda, I must say that I'll tell you from the biblical point of view that you reap what you sow. On a light note, that sequence can only be stopped when I become president.
Precisely.
Because as a pastor, I understand. I'm not saying I'm going to be, there are some people with other minds. What happened to Dr. Kaunda? It was an embarrassment to subject a father, a founding father, even if he was wrong. You cannot go to that level, to the point of putting him in prison. Instead of celebrating Christmas with his family, is there and he comes out. That was an embarrassment to the international community. And also President Chiluba, because of the suits, because of the shoes. Even where I am, if I am not building this station, I'm not building the cabinet stars, I can buy 100 or 1,000 suits and shoes. Surely, as a president, you start saying, how can he get those suits? Trivial minds. Nevertheless, I must say that that seed must be broken, and that's where now I come in preaching reconciliation, Mr. President, because like you rightly said, if President HH thinks he's a saint today and he listens to some people with bitterness, or maybe were disciplined by President Lungu, and he sides with them without using his God-given judgment and authority which he has been given by God to rule this nation, the seed or the seeds he's starting to plant now, after he leaves, they'll follow him.
Precisely.
So this is where now we come in with the word of God. And do to others what you want them to do.
Yeah. And also, Pastor, to add to that, it may not even have to be another political party who would persecute him. We ought to learn from the Chiluba and Mwanawasa issue. People from the same political party. Chiluba handpicked Levi Mwanawasa to be his successor in the same political party. And when Mwanawasa was saying remove his immunity, it wasn't he alone. He was listening to people around him, like you were saying. And unfortunately, he lost his own judgment to the judgment made by the others around him, without him realizing that some of those people may have been saying punish Chiluba because they had a vendetta against Chiluba. It was not the country per se, it was just a few individuals who were very loud. And they convinced him. But I'm sure that now, where they are in heaven, they must be asking each other, why did you do that to me?
Probably they are neighbors.
Probably they are even neighbors.
May their souls rest in peace. But May God help this nation. I am for this nation through and through, and I would want the best of this country, you know. Let's move on, President. When you were in PF, you wanted to win every seat and to have more members of parliament. I think that's the desire of every sitting party. You want to have more so that when you pass a motion, even if it's wrong or right, you'd like to do it collectively. Now that you are in the opposition, do you think the UPND is wrong wanting to claim every seat that can be available?
It is not wrong to aspire to win all the seats. It's not wrong at all. But I think that there is a moral question. After you have lost some seats, then you petition all of them. Then the morality issues arise. Could it be correct that after you have won 96 seats, for instance, and you have won the presidency, then you go around and say, in these 96 constituencies, everything was free and fair. And across the whole country where the president won, everything was free and fair. But where we lost, things were not free and fair. How can that be? Because if you challenge a seat, for instance, if a president wins in a constituency that I love the most, Kabwata constituency, and their MP loses in that constituency, and they stand up and say, even if I won as president in Kabwata constituency, however, I don't accept that my MP lost, so I'm going to petition the parliamentary seat. And you do that for 56 seats.
It's 56 seats that were petitioned?
Yes. That, to me, is immoral. Yes, it is immoral. 56 seats and an unprecedented more than 200 council seats were petitioned after the 2021 elections. That, I think, is not correct. To aspire to win all the seats, nobody can question that. Nobody can complain about that. That's exactly what every party wants to do. To acquire as many seats as possible, but through the election, not through petitions. No. No. More than 200 council seats, it has never happened in the history of Zambia, except after the 2021 August elections.
So you haven't petitioned any seat in the PF strongholds or where they won? There were no troubles?
We petitioned one, the Kanyama seat. That was the only one we petitioned. And the reason...
What about in the southern, northwestern, and the western?
No, we didn't even petition the Solwezi seat, where our chairman was killed on the queue. We didn't petition that. We petitioned the Kanyama seat because our losing member of parliament in Kanyama felt very strongly about it, and she had overwhelming evidence as far as she was concerned. Yes, that was the reason why we allowed her. We said, please proceed and petition because...
So it's in court?
No, unfortunately, it was ruled against her. And she was prepared to appeal and so on. But unfortunately, a lot of our witnesses were intimidated. They were harassed. Some of them to date are not back in Kanyama. They are out of Kanyama. They were harassed and intimidated. People's houses were raided. Yes. You remember the story of witnesses being beaten at the High Court? Yes, witnesses in Elizabeth Perry's case were being beaten at the High Court, in the full view of the police, in the full view of judges. You remember also the story of Christopher Shakafuswa's witnesses being clobbered, and yet it wasn't Christopher Shakafuswa who petitioned. It was the UPND candidate who petitioned Shakafuswa. And his witnesses were beaten. So because of that, Madam Elizabeth Perry realized that she would not have any reason to proceed because her witnesses were all dispersed.
That is sad to hear. It is very unfortunate. I asked that question in the view, President Lubinda. My view is that we need to mature to come to a place. I'll give an example like America, where the Democrats and the Republicans go neck to neck. In the interest of democracy, even you, when you were in power, UPND was there to make you work and sit up. And the amazing part of it is that I kept on saying, this was me, I kept on saying that this is a wrong campaign that some of your people were conducting. Always saying, UPND. UPND has done this. UPND has done this. Unfortunately, again, UPND comes into power. They are also singing the same song. PF has done this. PF, it's like you politicians don't learn from the mistakes of others, not knowing that others can vote or give a party on sympathy vote to say, why are you persecuting this? Like you were doing to UPND. Some people would have said, let's give a vote of sympathy to President HH.
Two things, Pastor. First, let me comment on your reference to America. The experience of the last election in America left a big scar
on America.
On America's
I know that.
Reputation as a democratic country.
I know that.
And this is the reason why I took exception to the statement made by President Biden about elections in Zambia, and trying to portray that Africa and Zambia in particular is not a democratic country, but America is the epitome of democracy.
No.
That is far from the truth. I think that
their weaknesses came to the surface.
There are many people in America who can learn lessons from how we conduct our elections in Zambia. I think that comparing the two elections, the American one and the Zambian one, I think that we're more democratic than they are. We didn't see people throwing stones when the results were announced. We didn't see people going to Parliament to go and
destroy the
building. No, but we saw that in America. People were killed at Capitol Hill. So Mr. Biden has to learn something. There are lessons he can learn also from Zambia. Particularly his predecessor, Mr. Trump, can learn a lot from Edgar Chagwa Lungu. He can learn from President Rupia Banda. Here, when you've lost elections, so far, none of the former presidents has resisted. They hand over with dignity.
I referred to America not just on that part of election, because in America, president, as you know, you've been there, you've studied their democracy. When you criticize the president, it's not that you hate him. When you criticize the system, it's not that you are against the system.
Precisely.
That freedom of speech of the opposition, it gives comfort. But here in Africa, especially Zambia, if I say something against the PF, I would be labeled a cartel. Now, the UPND is there. If I criticize President HH, I will be labeled otherwise. You see, this is what I'm saying, that in Africa, politics, you are, like I said on Sunday, when you are in power, or the party is in power, honorable, there is this tag. Say something, you see what I will do to you. Or in Bemba we say so money. That should not be there. If I want to express something about your president, give me a chance to tell you that you are wrong. Not you sending police officers to come and investigate me even where I bank the money. You know, those are the politics in Africa which I do not appreciate.
I agree. And I just want to clarify that, yes, a lot of people have said that the PF was arrogant, the PF was not listening, and so on and so forth. But if you go and look at the Hansard of Parliament, you will see how many concessions the PF was making at the hands of the UPND. We were making various concessions. Look at, for instance, let's look at the constitution-making process. In 2016, who stood up in Parliament saying, bring the constitution as it is? It was UPND. And Edgar Lungu, when he was made Minister of Justice, he said, I have nothing to hide. Here is the constitution you're talking about. We were not arrogant. He gave it to them. He said, here it is. And then they went on the floor of Parliament and said, we want it to be passed. Don't delay. Meanwhile, some people in the PF government were saying, we ought to give this to technical people to clean it up. But they were saying, no, we want it as it was drafted. You can't change a comma. Leave it as it is. President Edgar Lungu conceded. So yes, we could be called arrogant, but the truth of the matter is that the record is there to show that we are willing to give concessions, and we are giving concessions. Look at, for instance, very important piece of legislation, the political parties bill. And I was driving that. And before starting that process, we made consultations among us political parties. And for information, Beani, Dr. Beani, was the one who spoke on behalf of all the opposition political parties as they were handing the bill to me. And his words were, don't change anything. Those were his words to me, don't change anything. And I said, I can assure you that I'll only concentrate on where you say you are not decided. Those are the areas we'll look at. Where you have decided, we shall take it as such, because this is a process that has involved all of your political parties. What happened? When I said, now, can I present the political parties bill in Parliament? They said, no, don't present it. We were not arrogant. I said, fine. Because you have said no, we'll keep it, we'll shelve it. And exactly the same happened with the Public Order Act. The Public Order Act Amendment Bill was taken through the whole process. Members of Parliament were brought together under the auspices of the International Parliamentary Union. We brought resource persons from outside Zambia to come and sit with MPs. And every MP was agreed, this is what we want. We don't want a situation where only the President of the Republic is the one who has the leeway the other presidents don't have. Let's balance this thing. We all agreed. We went to Parliament and we said, here it is. What happened? They stood up and said, no, we don't want it until after Bill 10 passes. That's when we'll come and look at the Public Order Act Amendment Bill. And we said, but what is the relationship between these things? Why don't we pass this law? They said no. And now what has happened, Pastor? The same people who are saying no to the political parties bill are the ones who are saying loudest, yes, it is important that political parties must be funded by government. But that is what was supposed to be in the political parties bill. They're the same ones who are saying all political parties must have democratic systems in place. But that's exactly what the political parties bill is saying. They're the ones who are saying, yes, every political party must declare its sources of finance and must make public the expenditure on campaigns.
Money, yeah.
Yes, but that was in the political parties bill. And you rejected it. You know, so this is, as far as I'm concerned, hypocritical. And this level of hypocrisy is dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. However, I want to state this, Pastor. The first meeting we addressed after losing elections, I did promise the Zambian people that the Patriotic Front, fortunately, has a number of well-experienced politicians. Quite a number of us have been in politics for more than 15 years. So we've known what it means to be in opposition. We've also known what it means to be in the ruling party. And because of our experiences, we did declare that we learned how bad it is when you have an opposition political party that is antagonistic, that rubbishes everything. A political party, opposition political party, that does not even acknowledge that there is a president in the country. A political party whose leaders do not even acknowledge or do not even recognize the sitting president as His Excellency. We saw the difficulties that created in governance. And we decided we will not do that. We recognize that, yes, there is a president in the name of His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, and he has the instruments of power, and we allow him to govern. We will not be antagonistic. However, we are also going to provide the necessary checks and balances. We're going to be critical whenever he does things which we think are not in the best interest of the Zambians. We shall raise issues. Because in any society, if there is no opposition, then there is laxity. And where there is laxity, there cannot be progress. Remember, Pastor, pressure makes diamond. And unless you have somebody, you know that there's somebody who's watching what I'm doing, you tend to disregard everything and do things as though you were all on your own. So we shall provide those checks and balances for the sake of Zambians, but we shall not be antagonistic, and we shall not go about insulting people and so on. No. I think that Zambians deserve better politics than that. And that is what we are offering to the Zambian people. For the next 4.5 years, we want to provide meaningful, respectful, and logical criticism of the government. Where they do things which we agree with, we shall support them. For instance, I've said before, there is not a single person in the Patriotic Front who doesn't agree with the idea of free education. The only thing is it must be delivered. It must not be lip service. When we think it's lip service, we'll remind them that, wait a minute, you promised. Can you please deliver? Who in Zambia would refuse that the kwacha must trade at 5 kwacha to the dollar? That's what we want.
Who said that?
You remember when President Hakainde said, you vote for me at 10 o'clock, 12 hours I'm sworn in, by 14 hours, the dollar will be 5 kwacha.
Did he say that?
Yes, he said whether 5 kwacha or 10 kwacha, I can't remember which of the two. But he said the dollar.
I think he said the kwacha would drop.
No, he did
not
mention,
putting
no,
the
no,
figure.
he did mention either 5 kwacha or 10 kwacha. And who wouldn't like to see that? All of us applauded that and said, now you have won, so please make sure that the kwacha is now stronger than it was. Unfortunately, what has happened? It is getting worse and worse. And when it gets worse, it is our duty in the opposition to say, wait a minute, Mr. President, you were elected on this promise. Please deliver this promise. You remember when he said he will increase the price of maize to 250 kwacha for a bag of maize, and will reduce the price of minimum to, maize to 250 kwacha, minimum to 50 kwacha? Who wouldn't like that? We all want that, and for us, we will remind him and say, please, Mr. President, increase the price of maize for the farmers to 250 kwacha, and reduce the price of minimum to 50 kwacha. Yes.
But don't you think also, President LUBINDA, that maybe it's too early to hold him accountable? In 6 months, can he put things in order, or he needs more time?
You know, had he told the Zambian people that I'll come and reduce the price of fuel, like I heard the Vice President saying, that first we must increase the price so that we can reduce it. Had he told the Zambian people that, I don't think they would have given him the mandate. No. He did not tell the Zambian people that, elect me, and after you've elected me, I will make sure that I increase the price of the tariffs of electricity for 3 years, and then I start reducing them. He didn't say that. He said, elect me, and I'll make sure that every Zambian has 3 meals a day. He didn't say it will happen in 2030. He said, elect me, and I'll deliver.
I wish I could have a phone call, or put him on the president on Zoom so that he can answer himself. Now that he cannot answer for himself, all those promises that you are saying he has said, they are for you as political parties to actually table to them and remind them, as you said.
And also for all Zambians who voted on the basis of those promises.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I have also heard, President LUBINDA, that some people, when you advise, even something which is normal, something which is good, they are saying you are crying out of bitterness or jealous that you lost and everything. How will that be corrected for a common man to say that, no, here, we are not against the UPND actually. We are fighting for you, though we lost, but the facts are supposed to be this. When
one minister went to open the milling plant in Mpika, I applauded. I made a comment, I said, well done. This is how we should govern ourselves. Let's open more plants. And I even said, this minister of the UPND is gracious enough to go and open a project that was initiated by the PF. It is us who did that work. He's gracious enough to go and say, I'm commissioning it. The president will be commissioning many other projects that we started, and we'll be applauding and saying this is exactly as it should be done. Unlike what we've seen in the past, where projects that were initiated by previous governments are abandoned. We want them to do it, and we'll be applauding them for doing it. Because if they abandon those projects, it is a waste to the economy of Zambia. It is not good for Zambia's development. So we shall applaud them. If they are going to employ 30,000 teachers, whose children are they? Yours and mine. They are our relatives. We wouldn't say, no, please don't employ. No. We'll say, well done, employ them. And then we'll also say, you see, you are employing them, and we left the hospitals built for these people that you are employing. We left the schools built for these people you are employing. Well done. We didn't build these things to become shells. No. We are applauding when they say Zambia Airways is now operating. We're saying that's exactly what we wanted. That's the reason why we spent people's money to build the new airport terminal. And if they just abandoned it, we'd say, what are you doing? But if they use it now, the president uses that terminal. And when I see him there happy through that beautiful terminal, I say, yes, well done. We applaud. So we are not going to criticize even things that require to be uploaded. We'll applaud, but we'll criticize where criticism is due.
But are you also aware, Honorable President, that this so-called free education, it has put pressure on the poor, because many rich people and some people in leadership are pulling their children from private schools to take them to government schools. And we've had people come to cry, Pastor Chiluba, look at this, some widow in Mutendere there with 7 children, good marks and everything, but crying because some headmaster is told, no, I don't want to lose my job. Are you aware that there are those things going on?
I read in the press 2 days ago, or was it yesterday, where they were saying free education. I think it was in the Times of Zambia, free education, that children are leaving private schools to go to government schools. I'm not sure the extent to which that is happening, honestly speaking. Because, you know, there is one thing about people not paying fees, but there's also another about the quality of education that people are getting from those government schools. We did an analysis not too long ago. Some schools that were receiving as much as 80 million kwacha a term from PTA fees have lost that income, and instead the replacement is about 36,000 kwacha a month. Now, how do you expect that same school to provide the same level of education as they were doing when they were getting 80 million kwacha a term? Naturally, the quality is at a risk of being compromised. And for us, that's what we're saying. Please, as you provide this free education, make sure that you provide the amount that was being earned by these schools through PTA funds. Replace it. Don't give them less. Give them equal to or more than what they were getting, so that the quality of education is not affected. But we also read in the press not too long ago that in some boarding schools, what was the difference in boarding fees? 100 kwacha, 200 kwacha. And they were saying government is only giving 200 kwacha subsidy per child. So if they were paying 2,000 kwacha, now they will start paying 1,800. What is free about that? What is free? There's nothing that is free about it. What about the books? Are the children being given the textbooks that they require? The notebooks that they require? No. And this is what we're saying. We're saying, UPND, you have a good program of giving our children free education, but please make it quality free education. Don't compromise on the quality under the guise of providing free education. It must be quality education. That's what we're saying. Even the issue of employment, we're saying employ the people, but make sure that as you employ them transparently. And let's also make sure that these people that you're employing are going to hard to save places. They mustn't just go into the cities and leave the rural areas without any attention. Take them also to the rural areas, and for you to take them to the rural areas, make sure that the program that we had initiated is continued. Build infrastructure in the rural areas so that you make them attractive for these professionals. That's what we're saying.
Honorable, may I ask something? I'm very passionate about this nation. I noticed that President Chiluba never used to visit Dr. Kaunda when he was in power at State House, and the President who was in the opposition then, when President was there, President Chiluba, those in the opposition, they would not visit, and when President Sata was in the opposition, he visited President Levy on medical grounds, and they reconciled, and those two, may their souls rest in peace. Things were so better for the nation, because you as a parent, me as a parent, if we don't get along, you don't expect our children to get along or to play together. Those are the laws of parenthood. Now, when President HH was in the opposition, he never visited the President Edgar Chagwalunga at State House. Maybe he did, please remind me. And you, as an opposition, are you going to carry on with the same spirit that if President Lungu invites you to Independence Celebration, Labor Day, are you going to put up the stance to say you reap what you sow, we are not coming there? What is your position?
President Hakainde Hichilema, I think, went to visit President Edgar Lungu twice.
At State House?
At State House.
I'm grateful for that. I didn't say that.
You remember there was the talk about the handshake?
Yes,
they actually
yes.
shook hands at State House.
Okay.
So, I think I would not like to take it away from President Hakainde, nor take it away from President Lungu. The two at least met at State House. And this also is back to what I said earlier. We are not going to be antagonistic. No.
So we do attend the national events
are national events. They're not for UPND. National events are for Zambians. Be it opposition or ruling party. They are for all Zambians. We are not going to shun away from attending national events simply because we're in the opposition. No. No. We shall participate in national events.
I will be most grateful, President Lubinda. Why I'm saying this? Because to say I'm a politician in the opposition, I can't meet HH, I can't do... I think this is what brings the country backward. Because the national development is not about a party like you said. It's about the nation. I look forward to you people going to State House, President HH coming there, and you shake hands and eat together, and at least somebody has got to start that.
You know, the trouble is that, unfortunately, we are just now getting out of this historic thing of opposition. In many Zambian languages, at least in all that I know, there is no friendly word meaning opposition. Opposition ni kusushana chape.
No, you are the alternative government.
that notion is not well explained in our tradition. And that's the challenge, that we inherited this feeling that opposition is about fighting and quarreling and being antagonistic. But that's not opposition. Opposition is coexisting and exchanging or having a battle of ideas. Not fighting and
so we call it, like my friend in Bwanika he was in the opposition when he came to preach in Uganda.
Right.
He lost to Museveni. I think he came third or fourth, but he's a preacher. And when he was preaching here, he said, Pastor Chuba, I'm not a member of the opposition. I'm in the alternative of government.
Exactly.
I don't call myself opposition.
Right. That is a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, to say I'm in the alternative of government.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if we are to shun national events, then we should also shun Parliament. We should ask our members of Parliament to resign. Then of what use is it? So for instance, there was somebody who was suggesting that President Hakainde must call a symposium of presidents, and particularly with President Edgar Lungu and so on and so forth. I'm sure that if he did that, a lot of current presidents, and you know, the current presidents of political parties, opposition political parties that I know, are all very astute people. I don't see any one of them who's averse to the idea that they are representing people in the country as alternatives to the ruling party. I don't think that there are any who would like to be antagonistic for the sake of being antagonistic. And I think that if an opportunity was to be availed to them, they would jump to it. They would go and sit at the same table and discuss national matters. As for us in the Patriotic Front, we are ready to discuss any matter that the president would like to discuss with us. And if he was to extend that to us also, would be very happy to also give him our ideas. Some of them will give openly, but we're also amenable to giving him ideas quietly. You know, there are some things that you wouldn't want to talk about publicly if you are given an alternative. You know, if you're given an alternative not to go public, you would choose that alternative.
That's a good spirit, Honorable, and I would like to appeal to the UPND and to other people. These things that you are calling each other that PF are thieves, you know, we are not saving ourselves a good record to the international community, where you brand everyone to be thieves without proof of it. My view is that people should be called to courts if they are prosecuted and convicted. Then you can use that term, not just a blanket to say UPND are this, PF are this. I think you should, as politicians, you should desist from those things.
I really wish you could say this clearly to our friends in the UPND, because it has become a feature in their vocabulary. Even in Parliament, when they stand up, you listen to a minister, the first thing they'll say is the previous regime, they used the ministry to siphon money to enrich themselves. Now, when you make such general alarming statements, what are you telling the Zambian people? You want to create enmity for a group of people without even adducing evidence. You know? I hear some ministers standing up and saying, this ministry was being used as a conduit for siphoning people to enrich themselves. And you ask, can you produce the Auditor General's report which shows that? There is none. Can you point at the trace of the money? Where did the money go? You just make a statement like that and leave it like that. Just to condemn a group of people. That is not leadership. I think that a person, when they're in a position of leadership, when they make statements against others, they must make sure that it can be backed by evidence. And especially people who have power. What they should do is, instead of just blanketing everybody, they must present the evidence that those people are guilty are properly prosecuted. Let the law take its course. And the law must be seen to take its course. Not this what we're hearing of now, that, for instance, our chairman for Mwansabombwe was picked up from Mwansabombwe last night, driven throughout the night to be brought to Lusaka, that he stole some goods here in transit, when those goods were stolen when this fellow was in Mwansabombwe. And he's brought all the way to Lusaka to come and be charged in Lusaka. Driven in the night. What do you want to call that? Look at what happened to Chama, and people are saying PF are crybabies. Is it acceptable in a country where the law says a person shall not be held in custody for more than 48 hours without being presented to the court? Is it all right that simply because it's a PF member, then we must just give it a blind eye? Chama is arrested, he is kept in custody for more than 12 days before being presented to a court. Should we say, oh yes, that's all right, because President Hakainde is now president, this is okay? No. No. Look at what happened to Stephen Kampyongo. Picked. He was not charged when he was picked in Lusaka. He was kept in the cells without being charged and was driven by night, 2 in the morning, driven with a huge convoy to take him to Chinsali, where he stayed another 2 nights before being charged. And when we say this is not the fair way of treating citizens, then others say, no, you are crybabies. We are not crybabies. We're just saying, please follow the due process of the law. That's what we're saying. I don't think that anyone is saying don't follow criminals. Follow them, but follow the due process of the law. And to just go around and brandish people and paint them with the same brush is not fair. You can't possibly, Pastor Chiluba, say all the 30 ministers under Edgar Chagwa are all thieves. You can't say that. That statement is unfair. If there are 1 or 2 or 3 who you know, please follow them. You can't just paint everybody black and say everybody in this government is a thief. That's not fair. You know, it's not fair. And what is happening now, where we're hearing this one has been picked up, this one has been picked up, that one has been picked up. What is the reason for it? This house has been raided, they're going to search, they don't find anything. This one has been raided, they go and search, they don't find anything. These are the issues we're talking about. This is not fair.
Probably because in your time, there was a time that the President HH's house was raided by the police.
You know, progression, Pastor, is that you do things better than your predecessor. That's what progression is about. You don't say we're going to be a better government and do exactly what the bad government did. No. No. Your successor in this church will be expected to do better than what you are doing. If they're coming to do things worse than you are doing, then there's no progression. There's none. Development is incremental. We can't say because in the years long gone, there was eye for an eye, so let's continue with eye for an eye. No, Jesus came and changed all that. So that society becomes better. So the fact that President Hakainde was arrested 15 times does not justify that he also must arrest people 15 times. There's no justification of that kind. If he's a man who intends to leave Zambia better than he found it, he would say, this happened to me, but it won't happen to another person. Because if it was wrong to happen to me, it is wrong to happen to another person. Actually, it is worse for a person who felt the pain of being arrested.
To inflict
pain on others knowingly is even a bigger offense and a bigger sin. Because you have experienced it, you know what it means, and you campaigned against it. You can't then turn around and say, oh, because me, I was arrested, so I also arrest you. And I want to believe him when he says, please, police, make sure that no one is detained for more than 48 hours, unlike me. I want to believe that he is genuine about that. But then when you ask, but why are the police officers doing it then? Is it because they have no respect for him? They don't want to listen to him?
But in most cases, the President, I'm speaking as a person that has been close to you people. You remember how close I was to President Sata. We spent a lot of time at his house. He would come to my home in St. Bonaventure. We had countless hours together. But I tend to think, this is just my view, that I tend to think that the president may not specifically instruct, go and arrest Pastor Chiluba. But some people who hate me, they may use the name of the president to come and arrest me. And I'm thinking it's the president. Because there are many things that are done in the name of the president when the president is not even aware. That I'm sure you do agree. I agree entirely. And having worked with President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, there are many things that were being done, and when you listened to the people who were opposing him, they would say it's him.
And when you sit with him, he said, I'm hearing this for the first time. I didn't even know that this is happening because they didn't bring it to my attention. You know, there are some ministers who are investigated and so on and so forth. And when you go and ask, why is this one being investigated? You would say, I don't know. They didn't ask me. But the buck stops at the president. So, if, for instance, the president hears of atrocities that are being committed by his officers, whose duty is it to stop them? It's his. No one else's. Because the buck stops at him. Because in this country, everything is done in the name of the president. When you're summoned to court, the summons is say in the name of the president. When you are given a call out to go to the police, it is in the name of the president. So if these officers are seen to be abrogating the law, and the president is made aware, it is only he who has to make sure that there is remedy to that.
Yeah, but the other thing, President Lubinda, I'll share with you this story that I don't like talking about. I don't share it publicly, but those who know and who are watching, they know this. You know, when President Mwanawasa was persecuting President Chiluba, I spent many hours with President Chiluba, and some of the things he was telling me, and I would shuttle between President Chiluba's house and President Levi Mwanawasa at State House. The two of us, I said, Mr. President, I came from your big brother. This is what he said. I was doing that in the spirit of a pastor, because I don't like, you know, going to the press. Yes, even when God has blessed my wife and I with this TV, I don't want to abuse it by every day being in the news, but that's me. But I spent countless hours between President Chiluba and President Mwanawasa, trying to reconcile them in the background. And there are so many things that I did. Only God will take the glory at the end of the day. So I am saying, President Lubinda, this nation needs God. I can tell you, this nation needs God. And my only appeal to President HH and President Edgar Chagwalungu is for God to help them to come together and love each other. People may talk, people may say this. Like I said, President Edgar Chagwalungu is a soul. You know, he's a soul. God loves him, and he should walk tall as former President of the Republic of this army. He did some of the things correct. Why can't we give him credit? Some of the things, he may not have done them correctly. He's human. That's what differentiates a human leader from God, because only God does not make mistakes. And this is my position, actually. So when I look at the alternative governments and I look at the ruling governments, my prayer, Honorable, is just one. That you as a leader and UPND, irrespective of what people say, please come together.
Sure.
Eat, laugh, chat. That is just my prayer.
We look forward to that. And I can also just remind you that much as President Edgar Lungu's predecessor is the late Michael Chiluba, Edgar Lungu did not forget the fact that Rupia Banda was a statesman before him. He did not forget that KK was a statesman before him. And during his presidency, he depended on them. He went to consult them.
Oh, President
Edgar Lungu.
Oh, okay.
Edgar Lungu would spend time consulting statesman Rupia Banda and consulting statesman Kenneth Kaunda. So there is value in borrowing from other people's experiences. You cannot be a master of everything. You can't. And the presidency itself cannot be mastered by a person. Statecraft is a very difficult job. And you learn on your feet. And you learn better by consulting those who were there before you. You cannot go into that office and think, me, I'm a saint, I'm an angel, and I'll do things better than everybody else who was here before me. It is not possible, because the trappings of power are so corrupt. Power corrupts.
I know.
And if a person goes in that office with the notion that they know it all, then I can assure you that before they realize it, they'll have failed lamentably, and the people will see that these fellows have failed lamentably. These governments are successive in nature. What I did at the Ministry of Justice cannot just be wiped out completely. No. When I took over as Minister of Justice, I also had to check in the files, what did my predecessor do on these particular issues, and how do I move forward? And that's what progressive people do. You consult, you know.
Not starting from scratch.
You can't start from scratch as though this is you who has created this environment. No. This is a country on a journey. And this is the reason why they say governments are like a baton. You run your race and hand over to the next. And the one who receives the baton from you must also be willing to look you in the face. You don't take the baton and run off and you don't care about the one who passed it on to you. No, because you're bound to make mistakes, you're bound to fail. You know, and this is the reason why I agree with you that we need to be civil in the manner that we handle public office. We need to be civil.
Well, my wife and I have already begun that process, President LUBINDA. I've consulted your Party Secretary General and the Party Secretary General for UPND in the interest of the nation, because this is the only nation we have. We can develop it together and move forward. Before, maybe I've forgotten, I didn't ask you the questions probably that the nation would have loved. I'll soon be opening up this so that the nation can open up their questions. But before we do, you were Minister of Justice. What's this law called bigamy which they want to... Please enlighten me on this. I've consulted 2-3 lawyers, and I'm just wanting to be guided before I come out. I don't want to shoot like a loose cannon.
You know, from what I've gathered, this is a proposal being made through the Law Development Commission. I'm not even sure that it's the Law Development Commission itself which is coming up with that law, because the Law Development Commission does not generate laws.
It doesn't?
No, the Law Development Commission is a commission that assists people to study laws and to draft laws, not to generate them. They don't have that mandate. So
why are we being told that it's coming from the Law Development Commission?
I suppose that the Law Development Commission must have been given instructions to look at that law, and they have drafted it and made it known to all of us. Now, this law obviously is inimical in a country that espouses Christianity. And this is unconstitutional. Unconstitutional because the Constitution itself says that Zambia shall be a Christian nation. What that means is that all the Christian values must be seen to permeate through the whole Constitution and through all the laws that are drafted under that Constitution. Anything that is against the provisions of the Constitution must therefore be considered unconstitutional. So before this law of bigamy and polygamy is put in place, somebody has to propose an amendment to the Constitution to remove the Christian values.
In Parliament?
In the Constitution.
In the Constitution?
Yes.
Before it goes to Parliament?
You can't go to Parliament and say, the Constitution says we're a Christian nation and we shall follow Christian values. However, we're coming with a law which is against the Constitution. Chakana. It can't happen. So, somebody who is coming up with this must also have an intention of amending the Constitution of the land to take away the Christian values. That's number one. Number two, You may recall that I asked when President Hakainde went to meet Vice President Harris. At that meeting, he said, we are going to reform our values to be in conformity with your values, with Western values. I asked, I said, wait, Mr. President, so that we don't misunderstand you, can you tell us what values you are talking about? Which values of Zambia do you want to change?
Which conform to the
Which
Western
will conform with Western values? Which ones in particular? And I said, I hope, Mr. President, that we don't misunderstand you, that you're talking about sexual values. Because these are the ones that are common in the West, and many people are talking about them. The issues of same-sex marriages and so on, LGBT rights and so on. I said, I hope it's not that. And the President, when he was addressing the press conference, he made it clear, I am elder in the SDA church. I therefore cannot promote such values. He also says this is unconstitutional. He said it himself. This is unconstitutional. And I want to believe him. I want to believe that being elder in the SDA church, he would not subscribe to anyone who attempts to impeach our Christian values by allowing same-sex marriages, by allowing polygamy, and by allowing abortions. Because all these are inimical to Christian values.
And that is my concern, President Lubinda. If that thing is allowed to go through, it will come with its twin sisters or triplets, which is LGBT, and also abortions, taking of innocent blood, you know, killing innocent children. And what kind of a nation do we want to live in? For now, I won't say much, but I must say to you that the nation is watching, because this, if it's done by the commission, the law commission, and the government accepts, I can assure the nation here that it will not be good. It will not be good. As long as the Lord lives, some of us, we are ready to stand on the side of God.
And like I said, I don't want to misunderstand President Hakainde. I want to believe him. I really want to believe him. A few times now he has been going to church in Kabwata constituency. He was at the SDA church the other Saturday. He was at Salvation Army the other Sunday. He even went and met the Pope at the Vatican. I don't want to think that he has any hand in this, and I hope that he will show the Zambian people that he is averse to this thing. Because again, unfortunately, the buck stops at him. Is he going to even tolerate discussion around this matter? Is this a matter on which Zambians should spend time? And there are other important things that Zambians should spend time on. Should people surely, as has already happened, I've heard church leaders commenting on this, is this something they must be talking about? Isn't there anything of greater value that people must be talking about? So I'd like to urge him to put a stop to this. Can he stop this discussion? Let's focus on other things. Let's focus on things that are productive, instead of talking about things that we know are not productive. I have heard some people arguing with me that, you know, you are being pretentious when you talk about when you talk against same-sex marriages and so on, because these things are happening anyway, so we just have to allow them to happen. Then I said to myself, this is the same as saying, yes, there is a sin, this is a sin in the eyes of God, but because people are sinning, let's appeal to God that remove this, it's no longer a sin. How can that be? That
argument, Honorable President, does not hold water. The fact that somebody is killing a person there and murdering, we cannot say let's allow murderers to go ahead and start killing everyone.
We shouldn't.
What is wrong is wrong. You know?
and especially in a Christian nation such as ours, which is led by a Christian, an SDA, an elder of the church. No, it mustn't be allowed. So I think that the president would do us a lot of good if he just told his people, can you stop this? Put it aside, it has no value.
I also would like to concur with you, Mr. President. Whenever something is being debated, I always wait for the president's word, because he's the father of this nation. If he keeps quiet on this one and he doesn't comment on it, then we will know that the president is consulting. But like you are saying, that is an elder. I've given him and I have chatted on the phone, and the other time he was singing songs. He says, Pastor, I was singing these songs and what. I believe that he is what he says he is as a Christian. I have no doubt. But to those people who are around and generating that law, it may backfire in a very bad way. It may backfire in a very bad way, because there are things we can talk about and there are things we cannot compromise about. And this is what the position is. Well, Mr. President, I would like to open the line for the people to make comments. Please feel free. We want to go on a break. I have to allow as many people to ask President Lubinda, who is the acting president of the Patriotic Front. And it's my honor to have him here. Like I said, let's debate intellectually without raising emotions, without demeaning anybody. And if you are to say something about somebody who is not with us in the studio to answer for himself, please don't say it. Just concentrate on what you can say. May I have some text messages, Mr. Director? Let me start with the text messages, if they are there, so that we can discuss. If there is a call, bring it on. If there are text messages, let's take one of the two. This is the issue about technology. It takes its time. Honorable LUBINDA, good evening. Your admin picked up when the exchange rate was at 5 kwacha. You left it at 22 kwacha. Inflation at 25%. You also left a huge debt, which your successors are grappling with right now. Surely, you can't compare your 15 years in politics to the 6 months your colleagues have been in power. Can you, sir? Also, Zambians have not forgotten the gross disrespect for Zambians by your cadres and some of your ministers. The last one is not an issue, Honorable, that we should discuss because cadres are cadres. Even the UPND cadres are doing the same thing. Maybe just answer the top part of it, of the 22 kwacha which you left and the inflation. This one, I'm
sure that the one who sent that message has their facts wrong. Because at the time that President Edgar Lungu was handing over, the kwacha was 16 kwacha to the dollar, not 22 kwacha. And he also ought to be reminded that the PF government, it did inherit a debt. And it faced numerous challenges in the last 7-10 years. You remember the droughts, you remember the floods, you remember the COVID, and all this impacted negatively on the economy. Also, he has to be reminded that it was not only Zambia that was suffering these consequences, it was the global economy that was suffering. So you cannot blame it on the PF government per se. And the issue that I raised, you remember I talked about, when you asked me the time is very short for you to judge them, I said their promises were not for 2030. They made promises, vote for us And the example I gave, the classic example was, vote for me at 10 o'clock. Swear me in at 12 o'clock. At 14 hours, the dollar will be 5 kwacha. I don't think that was a figurative speech. No, that was very direct. The 10-point plan of the UPND did not say that we shall reduce the price of mini meal in 2023. No. He actually said by September of 2021, the price of maize will increase to 250 and the price of mini meal will reduce to 50. So it is not me who is judging. I'm just following on the promises they had made.
Let's pick up this call, President Lubinda. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
What is your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is...
Your name is?
Patrick.
Patrick.
Yes.
Patrick, go ahead and speak to the nation. Are you in Lusaka?
Yes, sir.
Please speak to the nation.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
During your case, you
Patrick, sorry about that. I'm very particular about... You are not hearing anything, eh?
No.
I am concerned about the viewers out there and myself. I need to hear. Please call again. When I'm on set, I like taking clear calls so that there is no misunderstanding. Sorry about that, Patrick. Can we have another text message? That line was breaking. I didn't hear. May the Most High God give you wisdom so that you can, I don't know what that, you can tell, you can them all. Anyway, the ruling and the opposition parties, God bless you, man of God. I'm trying to make out something. When President Lungu was busy telling people that once elected, he will jail HH, where were the Christians? Newton Mawele. I'll answer as a Christian.
Yes, please.
Just let me answer that, Mr. Director. You see, when that was said, if those who watch Camnet TV, I don't want to speak on behalf of the mother bodies. I still insisted on love, even then. I'm not speaking on behalf of EFZ or whatever. Me, a wrong is a wrong. I still insisted on love, unity, and peace in this nation. So to say where were the Christian, I think it's not good, like you said, to generalize. You know, I just thought that I should answer, because if he had been watching Camnet, he knows that when something is wrong, my wife and I talk. When something is right, it doesn't matter who says it. Hello, good evening. Permanently blessed and highly favored by God. What's your name and where you calling us from?
This is Hamonga.
Hamonga. Hamonga in Lusaka.
Yes.
Please go ahead and speak to the nation.
I've been telling you for a long time.
Yes, sir.
As you are if that man is related to you, with his example, and here to listen to your faith, to your argument, this time they are doing that. They need to listen, let's go over the time to your platform, our church on there. If this was the very big protect itself in the world, that's enough to make it go. That's the limit. That's the thing to our moment, the person,
okay, Mr. Monga, speak slowly. Speak slowly. Yes, sir, I am saying, speak slowly. I am not getting everything. Did you get it?
No.
You are clear, you are okay, But speak slowly so that I can hear what you are saying.
Oh, I see. I'm saying, when people are complaining in 2009, they are the talking one day. People have more money in their pockets. People will be employed. This is not happen, the answer is no. Without running the service of war, we are just a week later on. But I'm expecting that we are looking at it's not my fair factor, but my problem of the red I gave you is more. Our two, but then I think we are proper decision. We are trusting. Thank you so much, my dear. I will pass the tuba for Steve. You are my and I'm an elder at this people. And I always follow you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Have you heard what Ms. Amonga said?
I heard bits and pieces, but let me respond to the first part. And the first part was, you in 2008, 2009, you campaigned that in 90 days, people will have more money.
More money in their pockets, yes.
But could it be very munachita? You didn't give people more money in their pockets. Monzano winako chobi pangono moyamba kwa $1 ibwerere. Let me answer this way. Elder, if your memory serves you right, Elder, we said in 90 days we're going to put more money in the pockets of people. And true to our word, in 90 days we put more money in the pockets of people. How did we do that? Number one, Elder, ingati mwina nchito imwe, olo mwina bwewano ina nchito, we will remember that in the first budget of the PF in 2011, budget for 2012, we increased salaries of all civil servants by 100%. Those who were earning 2,000 kwacha were now earning 4,000 kwacha. That was putting more money in the pockets of people. Number two, we increased money in the pockets of people, even those who were not in government, when we increased the tax-free threshold. If you recall, Pastor, in 2011, the tax-free threshold was only 1,000 kwacha. Anyone who earned above 1,000 kwacha was paying tax. We increased the tax-free threshold to 4,000 kwacha. So that whoever was earning anything below 4,000 kwacha was not paying tax. What we do further, we also went on and introduced a minimum wage. And we said everybody must be paid a minimum wage. We increased money in the pockets of people within 90 days. We kept our promise. UPND promised. Why doesn't this elder also say, yes, they also promised that by September, the price of meal meal will be 50 kwacha? Why doesn't he say it? So this is being very selective. You may be a supporter of UPND, but please don't be selective. As for me, I'm not being selective. I'm just telling you the reality as it is. You refer to the 90 days I've told you how we increased money in the pockets of people. But this government promised that by September, the price of meal will be 50 kwacha. What is the price today? It's 200 kwacha. And then to also say, wait until when? Did this government say, when we go and form government, first you must give us time to experiment, you must give us time to learn how to govern? Had they come to you to say that we don't know how to govern and we'll take 1 year before we start putting things in place?
What would you say, President, on the increase of the CDF? Don't you think that will help the communities?
The issue of the CDF is a big discussion, huge discussion. I'm sure that Pastor and this elder must have also read in the press the amount of criticism on the guidelines of the CDF. People have literally said, please withdraw them because they are not workable. Number one, they are saying, and bragging for that matter, we have increased to 25.7 million kwacha.
26.
25.7, yeah.
25,
26 million kwacha per constituency. However, we shall give it in quarters, and we shall only give it after you have retired the previous. Now, if you look at the CDF Act, which they are trying to use, it says that the money must be released by March. All right, or April, if I'm not mistaken, by April. Now, if they if they haven't even started now processing the project proposals because the guidelines have not been accepted, when will it work? And remember, they are saying 25.7 million kwacha will go to what purposes? It will go to schools, construction of schools, it will go to hospitals, it will go to courts, it will also go to bursaries, it will go to roads. I mean, for heaven's sake, how do you make a member of parliament become an implementer of government projects? The CDF has now changed its character. When the CDF was introduced, it wasn't meant for that. The CDF was meant to be money that the member of parliament can use simply to complement government effort, but not to take over government's responsibility. Because now you have taken away the responsibility of government and given it to the member of parliament. And my argument is, Pastor, a member of parliament, my member of parliament in Kabwata, for instance, he gets that money, he goes and utilizes that money on constructing a secondary school. And if there is a defect in that secondary school, how will he go back to parliament and say, Minister of Education, the school that you built in Kabwata is not good? Because he was part and parcel of that project. Where then are you leaving the issue of the responsibility of the parliament to be overseeing the executive? Because they have made them become implementers. So you are actually going against the doctrine of separation of power between the executive and parliament. So parliamentarians now will not oversee anything. Parliamentarians have become part and parcel of the executive. That in itself is wrong. But I want to assure you, Pastor, that come the close of 2022, you may invite me back here for us to come and assess the viability of this idea. I'm sure that even government ministers themselves, government members of parliament themselves are aware of the fact that the 2.5 million kwacha is a trap. It will not work, and they are only going to put themselves in a big predicament, because now if you are a resident of Bauleni and you need water, who do you go to? You go to the MP, because the minister will tell you, we gave the MP 25.7 million kwacha to provide water. You want a clinic, the 25.7 million.
Let's pick up this call on Honorable President. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Permanently blessed. What's your name and where are you calling us from? You are Pastor? Lubangwe?
Yes.
Within Lusaka?
No, I enjoy.
Please go ahead and speak to the nation, Pastor Lubangwe.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Pastor. Good evening.
Yes. I just want to bring on this. Yes, but so many approaches, like using of with food, nature has never used. So, thank you very much.
So, Pastor, you are saying, let me get it straight. Hello? Oh, he's cut. I don't know whether I heard the pastor correctly, that the money for CDF is for, what did he say, constructing a few things, otherwise schools had to be built by the government. What did you pick from what he said?
I didn't pick what he said. The only thing I picked was that don't mislead Abantu, CDF is not for building schools. But then it means that he's rewriting the, the guidelines, because the guidelines are very clear. The instructions that were made by the Minister of Finance with the adjournment of the previous sitting of Parliament was very clear. He said, now we have given you 25 million, so there's nothing like going to your constituency and saying there's no school here, there's no clinic here. The President himself has made mention of schools and made mention of clinics. Now Pastor is coming up with his own ideas. Pastor, I suggest that you make your proposal to government and say, please, funyanyiko ifi, tulefa kushale ifi. That is exactly what we're saying. Then you and me will be speaking the same language.
Before we go to the text messages to President, I have seen one anomaly. When you were in power, you gave that Black Mountain to the Zambians, quite okay. Whether there were guidelines on who should qualify and how to access that thing, I don't know. UPND has also made the same kind of proposal that we have given to cooperatives, and the people have already been given. In your administration, President Lubinda, there was no public invitation to say, Pastor Chiluba, if you want to be part of the Black Mountain, apply. The UPND, there was no public invitation to say, Pastor Chiluba, if you want, apply. What would you say about the Black Mountain? It seems like when you were there, the Black Mountain was for PF. Now that you are out, also the Black Mountain is for UPND. What are the qualifications and who accesses that?
That wasn't the case in the PF, because what I understood was that there was a company that was established by young people on the Copper Belt to run the Black Mountain, to extract the materials from the Black Mountain.
Irrespective of the political party?
I don't think that there was anybody who went there and said, are you PF, are you UPND at the time. I think it was that youths who came together. I can't remember the name of the company. The company had the name, which went into an agreement with the government of Zambia for them to extract the material from the Black Mountain. I don't think it was a PF cadre or a PF committee. It was a company, a registered company.
And this Black Mountain giving this time around, was there a public invitation?
I didn't hear of any public invitation. I heard that some people are being told, form cooperatives and come. So if there's any public announcement, it is just that announcement that I heard, that people are told, you form cooperatives and come and mine. So the question that begs an answer is, how many cooperatives will be established around the Black Mountain? How many?
And the company you gave you as PF, was it for Zambians or for foreigners?
It was purely Zambians. It was
and it was advertised? Purely
Zambians. And these Zambians, if I remember correctly, these Zambians formed their company and applied to the government as youths. They said, we have a company and we're applying to extract the material.
Okay, I'll leave that. I just wanted to tell you that in my lack of information, I thought what you did as PF to just give away without inviting the people in Lusaka, in Mongu, in Kalabo, Chinsali to say apply for this, I think it has also repeated itself by people just getting the surprise to say cooperatives have been invited. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. Who is calling and where are you calling us from?
Okay, I'm Joseph calling you from Mundora.
Joseph calling from Mundora. Please go ahead and speak to the nation.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Good evening,
Good evening, Joseph.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank you, Pastor Chiluba, for this program and for what you have done. The first statement that you suggest to the president of here that there must be that reconciliation that we need as a Christian nation. If that is done, then I'm sure that we are going to need a policy that is right. Yeah, then coming back to issues of policy, I think I also want to show the PF now in opposition that please do not do what your colleagues did when they were in opposition by refusing everything, walking out of parliament when the roads are being made. Please don't do that, because every for years MPs who represent people around the country. Equal role for this reason also represent people around the country. So if you advise the MPs to work out, you have no ask for the people. So please, I urge you to do what is different from your colleagues. Also for our listening government, we also going to appreciate them for doing the right thing. But when they are doing the quality thing, we will depend on their own wherever they are coming from. They criticize because we want good things as citizens. So I think as a normal citizen, I just wanted to contribute and change on that point. Otherwise, continue, Pastor Silva. This is very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Joseph. We are grateful. President, you've heard his contribution. It's very fair. He has appealed to you. He has appealed to the UPND.
I think that he is just reinforcing what I said. That for us, we shall be totally different from the UPND. We shall not be antagonistic for the sake of being antagonistic. We will not do it. I also did indicate that whenever they do good things, we support them. When they come up with good programs, we shall support them. But when they go wrong, we shall remind them. And our criticism must not be taken to be out of spite. Our criticisms shall be made because we want them to succeed. We don't want them to fail. We want them to succeed because their success is for the benefit of Zambia. We don't want them to. For them, obviously, like Joseph said, they were terribly antagonistic. There is nothing that they agreed with. Nothing. The only time when they agreed is when we were talking about increasing allowances for MPs. Then they agreed.
Because it concerned the members of parliament.
All members of parliament. But when it came to anything, they didn't agree. I can bet you my last dollar. Go and check the Hansard. There was nothing on which they agreed. Everything, they raised objections. Everything. For us, and talking about walking out of parliament, our members of parliament walked out of parliament once. And that was because they didn't want to be part and parcel of creating a constitutional crisis. When during the budget, they referred to the repealed constitution, and our members said, no, we can't proceed with this. They walked out. And because they walked out, what happened? The government amended the budget to reflect the correct constitutional provision. That is the progress that we want as opposition. We will not walk out just because we want everything to fail. We will walk out to register a disagreement. And especially if the disagreement is presented to Parliament and we see that there is arrogance of numbers on their part, only then shall we take such action. But we will not walk out. Joseph, I can assure you, our members of Parliament are men and women who have a heart for Zambians, and they will not unnecessarily derail the business of Parliament by walking out. That they will not do. That I can assure you. I know all our members of Parliament. They are men and women who have a heart for the people they represent.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's take some more text messages, Mr. Director. Who gassed us? You were the Justice Minister. What a question. Were you in Chingola? Good evening, Pastor Chiroa. You are doing a good job. Mine is kindly allow PF members to heal. They are still in shock. I, for one, will never forget these people, PF guys, on their arrogance. I may forgive them, but not now. He's speaking from his heart and not as a Christian, I suppose. May God use you to bring the political parties to save Zambia, not to divide Zambia. God bless you, Pastor Chiluba and Honorable LUBINDA. Just that, Mr. Director. The previous caller, may I appeal again? I'm appealing to the people of Zambia and I'm appealing to the PF. You see, President, there is a story, I've told it more than twice in this broadcast. The business manager for President Nelson Mandela, there is a story that has never been told to people. He told me something that I'll never forget, and that time he picked me up from the airport. We were in Santon before my scheduled appointment with President Nelson Mandela. Though I didn't go there, I refused on things that I've explained here on TV. But as we were waiting for Madiba to call him to take me to State House, he narrated this story that has blessed my heart. He said to me, Pastor Chiluba, do you see how Nelson Mandela walks like that? Straight, without bending. Nelson Madiba used to move like that. I said, why? He said that man had plates in his legs. Plates on the right and left leg and plates at the back. Because the white man who was assigned to break the will of Mandela broke his back and broke his knees. So they had to fit plates. Mandela went to the grave with plates on his body. But the moral of the story is this. When President Mandela became president and it became apparent, that white man wanted to fly to Australia. But Mandela, as president-elect, requested that man to be detained in the house. And the day before, he sent a suit to that white man and sent a base on the Benz car during the inauguration and said, go and bring him. That's the man who sat fourth from Mandela on the left. That's the man who broke Mandela's back. And what touches me, President, is this. Mandela welcoming that man, he said, my brother, you and me suffered together in prison. Now it's time for us to rejoice. He never hit back. And how I wish Zambians, how I wish leaders could have the heart of Nelson Mandela. Of the many stories that gentleman Patrick would tell me, that has stood out. It has touched my heart. I've gone through the files to see how Mandela helped. When we have Zambians, when we have people who can't forgive you, who can't forgive President HH because they are in the opposition, who can't forgive President Rupia Banda, I think we are doing ourselves a disservice. That's my heart, President. I want to live in a country where you offend me, I say it's time for us to enjoy together. I want to have a forgiving heart. That is what I pray for in this nation. You know, greatness is not remembering the bad things about you. Greatness is to look at good things and say, let's move together. I just meant to tell that story of Nelson Mandela because some Zambians, they are agitating and telling President HH, do this now, do that, you know. Again, President, I'm speaking as a pastor and I'm speaking as a Zambian. There is a Zambia that I want to live in, where people live in love and forgiveness. That's me.
True. However, you know, Some of the people make all these statements and say, we shall not forgive the PF and so on. If you sat down and asked them, what is it that the PF did which injured you as a person? Most of them, nothing. Totally nothing. That gentleman who said we are in shock, yes, he is celebrating and he thinks that I am grieving, and therefore because I'm grieving he must be happy. You know, that's a strange way of looking at things. You know, if he really believes I am in shock, there's no need for him to poke at me. You know, if I'm in shock, what I deserve is compassion. You know, but, you know, again, a lot of times what comes out of a person's mouth or what comes out of a person's mind is what they harbor in their head.
The Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Precisely.
That comes from the heart.
Precisely.
Yeah,
so
but
I think that there are many out there who do not consider the Patriotic Front as being shocked or anything like that. Yes, we lost elections, but we've moved on. The fact that I'm sitting here and the fact that many members of the Patriotic Front are mobilizing the party and they are doing their business, and surely must be evidence of the fact that we have accepted where we are and want to move on. And there's no need for anyone to come and say, oh, those people are shocked.
Well, that is the expression of which you put in the law of freedom of expression.
Precisely.
But certain people, you just have to forgive them.
Precisely.
Because even me as a pastor, to tell you the truth, when I say that I'll never side with anybody, you saw how close I was to President Michael Sata,
right,
on a personal way.
Right.
Did you ever hear me campaign for him on one day?
No.
Huh?
No.
I was almost with him on a weekly basis at his house there. You know the story,
Yes,
Honorable.
yes.
But when I come to church, I never said vote for Satawad, because we are one people in this nation. And for me, I'll never hate any person. All the 6 presidents, including those who are dead, I just told you how I was shuttling between President Chiluba and President Manawasa, and the nation didn't know. It is all in the spirit of love and unity.
Precisely.
So when you hear people like that, President, I can only appeal to you, learn to forgive, learn to love, learn to ignore, don't respond to everything that is said. Same with President HH. My prayer to him is to learn to forgive, to learn to love, to learn to reconcile the nation. I think that is better for me.
It's a better calling.
Yeah. Let me take the last 3 text messages. Maybe we can squeeze in 4. May God use you to bring the political parties to save Zambia, not to divide Zambia. God bless you, Pastor Chiluba and Honorable LUBINDA. As a country, we need to actively move forward and advise one another comprehensively. Thank you so much. May God bless you, sir or ma'am. The next one. Let me have the last 3. Mr. Director, no phone call. The last 3 messages before the news time. May I have? Okay, good evening, Pastor and Mr. LUBINDA. Honorable and your group, can you clear the air on debt swap? You were telling civil servants that the debt swap was a correct arrangement, okay?
I think so.
Why are you quiet on this matter as the biggest opposition we have? Please, I beg you, I think, let the UPND say something. This is Chikolo. I think from Mongo, let's close with this in a few minutes, President. Please enlighten the people on a debt swap.
The debt swap for the PF government was a real program. And the program was that all those civil servants who are owing government, and those civil servants who are being owed by government, first of all, would net their debt. So that if the civil servant was owing more than the government was owing them, then the civil servant would be made to pay the difference. But further to that, there was also another stage of the debt swap. For those who were owing third parties, banks for instance, and so on, all that debt was supposed to have been bought by the public service microfinance scheme. Because the public service microfinance scheme was established to be a banker of the public servant. Now, our public servants were borrowing from all different kinds of people and at different rates. Some of them were debt choked. Just like the country is also in debt, our civil servants were in debt. And we thought if the country requires management of debt, the individuals also require some assistance from their government. And because there was this microfinance entity that was established, we wanted that all that debt is bought by the microfinance, the public service microfinance, so that all the civil servants now would pay only one creditor, the public service microfinance entity, instead of them borrowing from different places. That was the essence of the debt swap, and it could have uplifted the standard of living of a lot of public servants, because a lot of them are owing a lot of money to different entities. We wanted that to be a thing of the past, but also we wanted to clean up the books of government, because as some people might know, and I'm sure that Mr. Sichikolo himself knows, that government was also owing a lot of civil servants in form of leave allowances and so on and so forth. And government was failing to meet that, and yet there were also other civil servants who were owing government, so we wanted to net that off. That was the essence of that program. Unfortunately,
so it was a real program.
It was a real program,
and people were going to benefit.
And people were going to benefit. People are going to benefit a great deal.
And
actually, we had already started doing that from June, July of 2021. We had already started doing it. Now, I heard the Vice President saying this is something that they are going to look at themselves to see how they can do it. I really hope that for the sake of the civil servants, the UPND government can look into it, because the plight of the civil servant is that they must be also given relief on the debt that they have.
The problem that you have as a government, President Lubinda, you never explain to people, to a common man. You as governments, you don't come, sit on cabinet and say the debt swap means this, we want to do this. And I guess because you people are so much into politics, you have to paint this one black, they also paint you black, and we lose even the good things. I hope that the president will look at that. Your last words to the nation, President Lubinda.
My last words to the nation is that please let us not use politics to create unnecessary tension in the country. Instead, let us use politics to build harmony amongst families, harmony in communities, harmony in our country. Politics is about service to mankind. Politics is not about destroying one another. Politics is not about exchanging bitter words and insults and vulgar language against each other. And politics is not about creating wrong impressions of one another. I think that politics can be used for the better good of society, and all of us politicians are called upon to use politics to develop this country.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
I'd like to also thank you very much, and the journey that you have embarked on is very important. The more politicians you have to come and discuss these matters and to find ways of ensuring that we use politics for the purpose of developing the country, the better it will be for us all.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I will soon be knocking at the door. I need President Edgar Chagwalungu and President HH with you in Tuareg. There's a program we have put in place. This is our nation. We need to move together with love, forgiveness, and development. May God bless this great nation of Zambia. We have to build it for our future generations. On behalf of my wife, who is the CEO of this great television station, I thank you, Mr. President, that you responded to my invitation, and convey our love to President Edgar Lungu and Mama Lungu and the PF, and let's do what we can to help support the president who is in office now to develop Zambia. Let's look at Zambia as a nation not from the political eyes. And I like your stance, what you said. You compliment, you will be there when you are called upon. I am so relieved and so blessed to hear that from you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pass my regards to the CEO.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dear Camnet TV viewers, I've been your host on this National Matters, and my guest has been President LUBINDA, who is the acting president of the PF. I know that many things have come out. Some things we didn't ask, some things I asked. But my prayer for this nation, remember that we are one. PF, UPND, MMD, whichever, NAREP, let's come together. We are one people, and let's develop this nation together. To the technicians on duty, to the crew that manages this, the news team and the Healing Word Ministries, to every one of you, dear viewers, you've just been fantastic. Keep watching Camnet TV, because Camnet TV is not just another channel. Bye-bye.